Today we are going to discuss crassulacean acidic metabolism. In this video, we are going to discuss second method to avoid or reduce the effects of photorespiration. Previously we discussed C4 cycle, and I hope that you got something out of it. Anyways, let's get started. Crassulacean acidic metabolism is a process that actually happens in plants which are found in dry and hot conditions like desert plants, cactus, plants, pineapple trees. So basically, CAM plants, the purpose of CAM, the process CAM, is to avoid the water loss or the evaporation of water. In harsh conditions, as we know, desert have very hot and dry conditions. In those conditions, it's important to avoid the loss of water, because if a lot of water is evaporated from the plant, there would be deficiency of water, and at last the plant would die. So the desert plant perform crassulacean acidic metabolism to avoid water loss in order to survive in hot and dry conditions. So the process is very similar to C4 cycle. What actually happens is, during the daytime, the CAM plants or the desert plants, they close their stomatas to avoid the loss of water. At night time, what happens is that the stomatas are open and the carbon dioxide can enter the mesophyll cells, but because the sunlight is not present, so light reaction cannot happen, because light reaction actually needs sunlight to take place. So for that, the CAM plants store carbon dioxide in their vacuoles as malate or malic acid. When we were doing the C4 cycle, I told you that oxaloacetic acid is converted to malic acid or malate, and then it goes to the bundle sheet cells for the C3 cycle. Likewise, what is happening here is very similar to that. The malate is actually stored in the vacuole, because in daytime we don't at the nighttime we don't have sun, so light reaction cannot happen in the plant. So what the CAM plants do is they store the carbon dioxide in the form of malate in their vacuoles, and when the sunrise, during the daytime, the malate is again decarbonized, and the carbon dioxide which is released is used in the C3 cycle. I already told you and mentioned it a lot of times before that either C4 plants or CAM plants, they both will perform C3 cycle because it's a part of photosynthesis and it's required for the production of glucose, right? So C4 plants have a process in which they were actually doing something. They were changing the form of carbon dioxide so that it can enter bundle sheet cells. What CAM plants do is basically they close their stomata during the daytime so that carbon dioxide cannot enter, oxygen cannot escape, but they are saving their water. And the main concern of CAM plants is to save water. And at night time, they take all the carbon dioxide from the environment and they store it in the form and not as carbon dioxide. We cannot store carbon dioxide because it's a gas. They change the form of carbon dioxide as we did in the C4 cycle. So do the CAM plants. They change the form of carbon dioxide into malic acid or malate, and then they store it in their vacuole. During the daytime, this malate is released. It is decarbonized, and one carbon is going to go to the C3 cycle, which is happening in the stoma. Wait a moment. It's happening in the stroma. Yeah, I just forgot the name. It's happening in the stroma of the chloroplast, while the rest of the carbons are again regenerated into PEP. Phosphoenol pyruvate. So the process is somewhat same, if we compare C4 cycle and CAM plants. But what they do, the difference is they store their carbon dioxide. Okay? So basically, here's a very important note for you. In CAM plants, if the questionnaire asks you that photorespiration happens, so the answer is yes, photorespiration happens, but the efficiency of photosynthesis is not reduced. The chances of photorespiration are really, really very reduced because light reaction will happen, it will produce oxygen. So the camp, because it is producing oxygen and there's no protection for the ribisco, so the oxygen is going to attach or bind with ribisco and photorespiration will happen at last. But the risk or the chances of photorespiration is really very reduced because the stomatas are closed at daytime. So the camp plants just, their main target, I already mentioned, their main target is not to avoid photorespiration, but the main target, the main purpose of camp plants is to avoid water loss. Their job is to retain the water. They don't care about photorespiration. If we compare photorespiration and water loss, they actually care about water loss because in hot and dry conditions, water is what desert plants need, and it rarely rains in muddy areas and in deserts. So water is the main concern for the camp plants. So making it simple, giving you the overview and conclusionally the idea about camp plants, what they do is basically at night they take carbon dioxide in, they store it in the form of malate or malic acid in their vacuole. During the daytime, because sun is present, they release the carbon dioxide and the malate is basically released and decarbonization happen. One carbon is going to go to the C3 cycle to perform Calvin cycle of the C3 cycle to produce glucose, and rest of the carbons are going to regenerate phosphoenol pyruvate. So by doing this, we are actually preventing a lot of water to be lost. So that's it for CAM plants. Not a lot of questions are going to come from this part of the chapter, but still there's a very small paragraph in the last of the chapter of most of the books which talk about CAM plants. So this is what actually happens, this is what's written in your books. I hope it was helpful. If not, let me know. I'm going to be elaborating it as much as I can. And yeah, thank you for watching. See you later in the next video. We are going to start a very important topic from tomorrow or today. That's respiration. Part of it's this topic is basically a part of bioenergetics in many books, but again, it really depends on the content in the syllabus. Sometimes it's not a part of bioenergetics, but it's given separately. But anyways, we are going to do respiration right after photosynthesis. So finally, we are done with photosynthesis today. We talked about photosynthesis in detail, like light reaction, dark reaction, chloroplast, pigments of photosynthesis like chlorophyll, xanthophyll, carotenoids, all of that. And after that, we discussed photorespiration and two more processes concerned with photorespiration, C4 cycle, and today we discussed CAM. So that is it for the photosynthesis. We're going to discuss or start a new topic, that's respiration, or you can consider it as a new chapter. Thank you so much. See you later. Have a